Hello everyone, Kobrax here, and today we are going to be looking at the White Fatalis mod made by MHW Team Resurgence. Now, without saying anything else, if you've seen footage at all of this rendition of White Fatalis, you can notice that this mod, compared to anything else we've seen thus far for MHW, has pretty unparalleled production quality and a map rework that I don't think I've ever seen anything like this for a mod. There aren't a lot of map reworks for mods in general for MHW, but this one's just amazing. So we certainly haven't seen a mod like this for MHW at all. And this isn't to disparage anyone else's mods or anyone else's work, or even to say that this is the best mod out there, but when it comes to production quality alone, this one takes the cake, bar none, I'm sure. This legitimately looks like Capcom could have released this as a DLC, and I'm not sure how many people would have questioned it. So its beautiful presentation doesn't need to be emphasized too much, as it'll be really apparent in many of the videos out there, including this one. But anyhow, to quickly note the aesthetics, compared to the normal capsule trade that came out with, regular Monster Hunter world, that has an atmosphere of fire and brimstone, bringing out a apocalyptic feel, using mainly a red, black, and brown color scheme to emphasize this. Almost similar to the ashen feel that you might get when you fight Crimson Fatalis in the old games, who would, traditionally be in a volcano. White Fatalis, much like his GU counterparts, has a somewhat more celestial feeling brought about by a portal that eclipses the sun and a color emphasis on blue and purple. The overall castle is now lighter and much more visible, making you feel even before the fight begins that this will truly be a fight against the ancestral dragon. It really is hard for me to put into words how wonderful the presentation for this mod is, so I'll try not to and just get straight to the functional differences of fighting the monster. But I have to say, this is just truly incredible. Now on to the differences you'll want to keep in mind when fighting White Fatalis as compared to normal Fatalis. First of all, he seems to have higher health but less defense than the normal Fatalis, as it seems to be evidenced by the fact that it takes longer to fight it, but at the same time you seem to do more damage. Here I'll be displaying its hit zone values. So much like regular Fatalis, you'll probably want to go Dragon Element or Raw Damage, though if for whatever reason you want to hit nothing but the forelegs, maybe Fire, since that would make sense with its hit zone value, but yeah, unlikely. You probably just want to go with Dragon or Raw, just like normal Fatalis. Many of his attacks will apply Lightning Blight. Lightning Blight does make it much easier for you to get stunned, so if you run Lightning Resistance alone and get it above 20, you won't get blighted, but you can still get stunned, although less likely. He can paralyze you as well, so you can run Stun Resist and Paralyze Resistance by themselves if you worry less about his damage specifically, though Lightning Resistance will help you defend against his high damage output. It'll be up to you how defensive your build will be. I've gotten away with just running Stun Resistance, so you can try just that. As the fight goes on, more of his attacks become infused with Dragon Element, and can and will do dragon damage and give off Dragon Blight. So running Dragon Resistance can also be valid, especially since the Fatalis gear is so negative in it. You'll also want to bring Null Berries for sure if you don't meet 20 Dragon Resistance. Now I'll be breaking down some of his new moves, but the main thing for starters are that all of his flamethrower attacks are gone, at least for the moment. No fire cones, no 360-degree fire beams, no fire beams while crawling backwards and forwards either, no fire pour at all attack where he pours fire onto the ground. Even one of his signature moves where he shoots fire downwards and rolls his head upwards is totally gone. The current lack of his full arsenal of moves means that in many ways he's a different fight on that alone. The frequency at which he does certain moves has increased because he has less to choose from. This means he will shoot a lot of blasts and shots at you. He also does a lot more tail swipes. Now if you notice with the moves I've mentioned, many of his powerful moves that were slow that made him vulnerable are also gone. If you were close to him when he did a 360-degree fire beam, or his fire breath while walking backwards and forwards, typically you did a lot of damage to him. Those moves are gone. So in turn he seems less vulnerable overall. His fire pour attack was a great way to get a tenderize, and when you learn to read his fire breath when he rolls his head upwards, you can be on his belly capitalizing for large portions of the fight. This makes White Fatalis feel more agile, as there will be less of those moves that make him an easier target. He feels way more shooty or blasty than normal Fatalis. I think it's important to note that this is an unfinished mod actually, and perhaps versions in the future will have replacements for these moves. But as for now, I'll be covering this version of the monster. Hopefully, in the future when they finish it, I'll definitely make a video on that one as well. But anyway, for now, of all the moves I mentioned, I believe the one that is still in this mod is the animation for the fire cone. But instead of a fire cone, he charges a shot that he shoots in front of him that will explode in many red rings that will expand outward. This move is amazing. It covers a lot of difference and will eventually disperse into lightning bolts as the ring won't hold. You can iframe this when you learn the timing, but it also just looks incredible. I kind of hope this is the bar for the new moves that they'll be putting in. This move functions entirely different from the fire cone, and I love it. But for certain, you'll probably want to iframe or Superman dive this. The timing on the iframe is a little misleading. You'll want to start your evade before the visual explosion itself goes off. I try to evade inwards toward the point of the explosion. I start evading right about a half second before the explosion I'm evading into goes off. It'll take practice, but it can definitely be done consistently. His charge shots can be somewhat underwhelming visually, but don't let them fool you. They cover as much range as normal Fatalis does, and will hit very hard, sometimes killing you in one shot. It also seems as though they don't have a delay before the explosion. Many shots that normal Fatalis would do would stick to the ground for about a second or two before they explode. White Fatalis' charge shots don't have delay anymore. Another new move he has is a charged roar attack, much like Alatreon's Dragon Explosion, actually. It does a lot of damage and covers a lot of ground. Dodging it will definitely be essential. Much like Alatreon's Explosion, you'll want to wait till the very last moment of his roar to evade. The animation is slow, which can kind of make you kind of antsy, but patience is key. This attack can do about 90% of your health. Now to try and cover some of his side beams. The thunderbolts he'll shoot in a row, whether side to side or one at a time, function much like the original Fatalises, and still have some of their delay. But these often lack the same visual cues, whereas many times you'll see the explosion will happen by looking at the ground and seeing the fire underneath when it comes to normal Fatalises beam attacks. Now you'll have to see where they land, or you must guesstimate by who he's aiming at and how much distance you've covered, since that move had probably tracked you. I'm not sure if this will be fixed in the future. I kind of like not having it be obvious where the thunderbolts are going to be, but at the same time it kind of feels like it's missing something, so we'll have to see. Now also note, he does leave little pockets and spots of dragon aura around the field. This is a little different, and I've seen this in one or two other mods, but yeah, basically if you shoot somewhere with a particular move, there will be a dragon aura there, and if you're in there at all, it'll deal a little bit of damage over time, but not too much, so you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. But definitely keep an eye on it if you're on low health. Now to cover the Nova and the Transition Thunderstorms. This is somewhat the crowning jewel of this mod. People have been asking, pleading, bargaining, and begging for this kind of Nova in a Fatalis mod for a long time, and we finally have it, and it looks great. It noticeably starts the same way every time. I don't think the bolts are random, and are much more likely preset. I actually find these bolts and this Nova overall much more difficult to avoid than the classic Nova and MHGU, for those of you that might have played that. I think the moment the ground lights up to the moment it goes off is shorter, but also the bolts themselves are very large and seem very prone to knocking you into other bolts. I actually like running Temporal or Rocksteady as an insurance policy. You should be able to get to avoid them, but he'll do in each fight probably 3 or 4 Novas. So the mantles will help you survive. Because yeah, you could avoid all the lightning bolts in 2 or 3 of the Novas, but he can always get you once or twice and then you'd be dead. They can also stun you pretty easily since they can apply Lightning Blight. If you're in Rocksteady, you also gotta watch out for continuous bolts that land in the same spot. They will land on the same spot many times, so you can still die before you drink your potions if you're wearing Rocksteady and just tanking them all. Now, I want to quickly suggest a tactic I use when playing an MHGU, Monster Hunter Generations, which is, for the majority of the time, I like to have the camera angle at an eagle-eyes view of your character during White Fatalis' Nova. If you do this while you're running around, there's a good chance you'll be able to simply run out of the Nova, as you'll be able to spot the lightning very easily. Couple of things to keep in mind while you're doing this though is that many times you may roll from one lightning bolt to another, so I suggest saving a roll evade for if you truly must roll to avoid a lightning bolt. I say you should use an eagle eye view the majority of the time during his Nova, not the whole time during his Nova, because especially in the laser stages, while his Nova is going off, he can shoot you from his position. So if you don't keep a visual on him as well as the lightning bolts, you might avoid the lightning bolts, but he might just hit you himself, so you want to watch out for that as well. So, in conclusion, this mod is almost everything you could dream of for a fight against the Ancestral Dragon. It also, for the sake of wholeness, is much more than just a fight against White Fatalis. It includes an armor reskin, which looks amazing, as well as White Fatalis reskins for all the weapons. You need the Elytreon layered for it, but they're all redone with the White Fatalis theme. I believe it also has an original remix for the White Fatalis theme, so that's what you hear when you fight him. And as if that wasn't enough, it even has a Palico armor that in my opinion is even cooler than the original Faux Fatalis armor for your Palico, and it's actually probably my favorite, to be honest. And again, the important thing to note with all of this is that I don't think this mod is even done yet. As great as it is, they wanted to release this before Rise, so the fight will probably be even better in the future once they complete, I think, once they complete supposedly all those moves. But I, for one, love what we have right now, and I can't wait for them to finish it if they get around to it. I will be sure to do a video covering that version as well. So thank you, Team Resurgence, and thank you all for listening. Thanks.